let's put it this way. Yeah. There is a raft of academic studies which proves that independent central banks deliver the goods, low inflation, etc. And that all then leads into general happiness and GDP and all that stuff. So that's the story. It's indisputable, like the Bible. Well, some people dispute it, but anyway.
But now, I mean, the credibility of the Fed, or the risk that it is starting to lose its either independence or become more susceptible to political interference is rising.
It's rising, and it's particularly rising in the Fed for two reasons. Number one, Trump is intent on actually not doing away, but certainly diluting the independence of the Fed. And two, the US dollar is so important, and the US is so important, you can't do something there without affecting everybody. So here's my scenario, very simple scenario. The tariffs get you close to the recession. It may not be recession technically, but it'll feel like recession, and inflation will be too high, so people will not feel that they're actually benefiting from the Trump administration. He goes desperate. He attacks the Fed for not cutting interest rates enough. The Fed will only cut interest rates by one cut this year, which is kind of a nod in the direction of Trump.
Sort of
but
cut, yeah.
the labor market will not be weak enough to cut more. Then Trump piles on the pressure on the Fed and really blames the Fed for everything and tries to change the statutes of the Fed. That's what I think is going to happen.
Change the Fed chair as well. Powell comes up, I think, April of next year.
Yes,
is he going to go
correct.
before then, do you think? Or is Trump going to try and oust him before then?
He will try and change the mandate of the Fed. And if he fails to do that, then he will certainly appoint somebody whom you and I, being the way we are, will not want to see.
What, though? Right now, I mean, it's price stability and full employment.
Well, hold on. There are lots of central banks around the world which you could add price. You go to the RBA in Australia and look at the engraving on the wall. The RBA is responsible for everything, including national Australian happiness. So, I mean, you can rewrite it any way you like, and then you appoint somebody who is really a kind of a goon, who will print the money to fund the budget deficit. Trump lives well, he doesn't live happily ever afterwards, and not for too long perhaps, but the reality is that once Fed independence is attacked, even attacked credibly, then the dollar starts to set,
really
then the reserve status of the dollar starts to weaken, and that is really when the whatever you want to call it hits the fan.
Okay, and the vicious cycle here is once that happens, right, the indirect bid, I would think, for U.S. Treasuries, right, is going to fade even further.
Yes, and they'll all rush off and buy the new Euro bonds being delivered at a European level to fund the unfinanceable budget deficits, to fund the defense expenditure.
So how bad is this going to get? Are we talking about hyperinflation in the U.S.? Or?
No. You're not talking about hyperinflation, but you're talking about inflation which will be constantly pushing up towards double digits. But you're not talking about hyperinflation. No, they won't go that far because it's not possible really to dilute the role of the Fed to that extent. So no, I'm not dystopian. I'm just saying I'm a mess-stopian. I think it's going to be a mess.
Is Trump going to bump up against the courts again if and when he does actually try and change the Fed's mandate?
Well, he will. At that stage in time, I think you will be getting very close to the midterm elections. And you will find, surprise, surprise, that all these very loyal Trump people who have not questioned one of his actions since he came into power, even though they may be illegal, they just sit ducks. Now, once you get close to the midterm elections, the ducks will start to quack. And at that point in time, it becomes very difficult to push through anything like what he would like to do to the Fed. But trying is enough to do damage. Uncertainty is a killer.
Okay,
and
so
it's
what
the
does
only
this mean
certainty we have.
for the investor? Where do you park your money? What's going to happen next?
Well, I still own gold, even though it's now beyond the price limit I set at the beginning. I still own safe haven assets, such as minerals and so on and so forth. And I've got Japanese yen big time. I own Japanese equities, I own European equities, and I own some European, the euro as well. Now, is that stunningly original to anybody? No. Long bonds, I would certainly own, say, 2 years or 3 years German treasuries, but I would not own U.S. treasuries at all. German bunds, sorry, but not U.S. treasuries at all. Toxic.
Whew.